We're going to bring on SEC Mike here on the program, that SEC podcast, our buddy. Mike, a couple years ago, or a year and a half ago, when you made your comments about Sam being better than Jimbo, however things have played out since that point, you couldn't have envisioned what we've seen, because I know you were very high on A&M this year. I assume you couldn't have envisioned what you've seen, right?
I mean, sadly, yes, I could have, but okay. I'm one of these dummies that gets roped in every year to Texas A&M because all the talent and the coaching moves. But I mean, it is what it is. Jimbo is not an elite coach. I don't care that he won a national championship 9 years ago with an NFL quarterback and 11 starters that would go on to become draft picks on the defensive side of the ball. He cannot coach, not at an elite level, not at a level to get A&M over the hump. And I would have fired him last year. And they're just delaying the inevitable. I don't care how much money he's owed. A&M is an elite program, and you just get a quality coach in there. And I'm not guaranteeing you win a national championship, but you'll be a heck of a lot closer than you'll ever get with Jimbo Fisher as your head coach.
Mike, what can be made out of this season? Because they've got to go on the road 2 more times. You got Ole Miss, you got LSU. You haven't won an LSU since the mid-'90s, right? Ole Miss, you know the drama with Lane Kiffin. Like, can this be an 8-4 team? Can this be a 9-3 team? Is this a team of 7-5 at best? Like, I mean, just kind of play it out based on what you saw A&M do against Arkansas, Auburn, and now the last 2 games. I'm talking about the totality of the Max Johnson experiment.
Right. Well, this is something we talked about today on our show, that SEC podcast. So in the preseason, we look at every team's schedule, and we'll just focus on A&M here. And we look at the schedule, and we say which games are absolute wins, which ones are very likely losses. We only had one likely loss, and that was at LSU, final game. So, and I'm not saying LSU some world beater. Their defense, maybe A&M can sneak up and win that one, but I doubt it. Now, the rest, if it's not a win, if it's not a loss, it's a toss-up. Our toss-up so far for A&M, Miami, you lost it. Bama, you lost it. Tennessee, you lost it. And we got Ole Miss on there too. So as long as Jimbo's the coach, I consider that a loss as well. So yeah, I mean, I think the best you could do is 7-5 record for Texas A&M. And, you know, I just heard your last guest, Ryan. I mean, saying, you know, we got to, don't bury him. There's recruiting and all. It's not on the fans, David. It's on Jimbo, and it's on this coaching staff. Give these fans something to cheer about. You should not put it on the fan base to keep this thing together. Jimbo's had enough time. I'm at the point where I'm done talking about this, Dave. I mean, I'm just waiting for them to get rid of him so that we can get an upgrade, so that we can make Texas A&M an elite football program, which it is in most regards, except for coaching right now.
So let me ask you this, Mike. They were going one direction with Connor. It's been a different direction under Max. But the team that showed up against Auburn, the team that showed up against Arkansas, they can win some games. And I'm embarrassed the way not embarrassed, not the right word. They did not bring it offensively the last couple weeks. And some of that might be defense. Some of that might just be you're hamstrung because of blocking and Max holding on to the ball too long. But like, the offense wasn't so bad a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I hear you, but that's life in the SEC, Dave. I mean, you adjust, or at least you should. And I don't see any, you know, the offensive line. I mean, that's a real problem. I mean, how many times are they snapping and the ball's rolling back to Max Johnson? That's not on Max Johnson, and that's blowing up plays. I can't believe for anyone criticizing Max Johnson, and I'm not saying he's out here playing stellar football, but I mean, he is getting killed out there. And this is why every year A&M's having their quarterbacks get injured. So I don't think that's an excuse anymore, because they should have fixed the offensive line. They got talent all across there. Steve Adazio, let's hope he leaves town too, because he is not getting it done. And who hired him? Of course, Jimbo Fisher. So yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying here. You're trying to be positive, but what is the point? The point is, if everything breaks right, maybe we can go 8-4. And that got the last coach run out, that's not good enough. So I don't know why we're sitting here trying to, well, maybe we can swing this. Maybe we can get 9-3. Maybe we can get 8-4. That should not be the standard in year 6 in College State. I don't care who got hurt. Players get hurt all across the SEC. Brock Bowers just got hurt at Georgia, and I realize he's not a quarterback, but it's not doom and gloom at Georgia because Brock Bowers got hurt. I'm just over these excuses.
Mike, first off, I elicit conversation for the spirit of conversation, right? Like, so we have in a 15-hour a week radio show, we got to look at all sides and what can happen and what shouldn't or what won't happen. My optimism level is not there. And to be 100% honest with you, it hasn't been there for a while, right? Like I thought this team was probably going to be 9-3, 8-4, which is, by the way, still possible. When the season started, that's what I thought. They were, and I was leaning towards 8-4. Still possible. The thing that I am just more at dismay at is the thing that bugs me the most is the offense right now in SEC play looks worse than the offense last year that was terrible.
Yeah, and maybe that is a factor of Connor going down, but again, you had me on right when that happened. And what did we say? And I thought it was a consensus that there would be a drop-off, but it wouldn't be drastic because Max Johnson is, he may be the best backup quarterback in the SEC. So it should not be this bad. But again, it goes back to the offensive line. I know some of the receivers are banged up, but where they're not being utilized, I realize the tight end got hurt. So, I mean, again, we can sit here and what if this guy, what if that guy, but it goes back to the head man. And I realized we brought in Bobby Petrino, and that I credited Jimbo at the time, and I still do. I credit him for making adjustments because it's working for someone like Eli Drinkwitz at Missouri, who brought in an offensive-minded coach. It's worked wonders for them. And I thought that it had worked wonders for A&M, but now that we're getting into this grind of the schedule, you're right. It's the same old. And I think there's a price that needs to be paid for that.
How's my buddy Cousin Shane doing? I know he caught some flack because he thought A&M was the better team this past weekend, even though Tennessee won.
Yeah, well, Vol Nation's mad at Cousin Shane right now for that comment, but he's sticking by it. I mean, he does think A&M, and I think the way he put it was brilliant. If you had switched Jimbo Fisher and his coaching staff for Josh Heupel and his coaching staff, I think A&M would have destroyed Tennessee last weekend. Now, that in that hypothetical, who knows? He could be wrong, but I think he's absolutely correct. It's coaching. A&M's got a better roster than Tennessee. I realize it was on the road, but I know Tennessee's 5-1, but that's a program that I think is teetering towards multiple losses. And at the end of the season, if that happens again, A&M I think is going to be sitting here saying, how in the heck did we let that one get away with a Tennessee? What, they scored one offensive touchdown and we still lost that football game? I mean, that's baffling.
What do you does Tennessee, are they able to score enough against Bama to make it an interesting game?
No, I don't think so. You got the revenge factor and everything. Of course, I didn't think they would run for 232 yards on Texas A&M either. I thought 100 yards on this A&M defense was a good day. So credit Josh Heupel. He's flipped the switch. They were high flying, no defense last year. Now they're all defense and running the ball, and they can't throw the ball for whatever reason. If they could find the passing game, but at this point of the season, I don't think you can't just sit here and say, well, half the season, maybe we'll find I don't think they're ever going to find a passing game under their current quarterback. So now I think it's going to be a rough day. I like Alabama in that matchup.
You think Jaden Daniels gets invited to New York the way his season's going, and will they have enough wins to get him to New York?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the key question because he's playing well enough to not only get there, but I think to win the Heisman. But what you've done up to this point, you're not going to be judged on. He's going to be judged on what he does against Alabama and A&M. If, to your point, maybe A&M kind of rallies here, I still think that could potentially be a quality win against a really good defense. Again, the defense is stellar for A&M. I know they got run on last week, but it's going to come down to specifically that Alabama game. That I think is Jaden Daniels' Heisman moment. And this is a huge if he beats Georgia, if LSU beats Georgia in the SEC championship game, and they'll be a massive underdog. But if he does, there's no doubt in my mind Jaden Daniels will win the Heisman Trophy.
You say that, and I'm not saying that LSU, I mean, obviously they have a very capable offense. They've made some changes to their defense to at least be more presentable. Their season could have gone, I don't want to say in a similar direction as A&M, but there was that moment where, like, in the Missouri game, I'm like, they may see 3, 4, 5 losses. Right now, it doesn't feel that way, especially when you see what's ahead. But they are still teetering, are they not? Or am I completely off there?
No, I think you're 100% right. And I think that's just kind of the state of the SEC right now. Even Georgia, who was in a dogfight at Auburn. I don't think Auburn's good at all. Alabama, I don't want to say they nearly lost to South Florida, but they could have. I think they should have lost to A&M. And even Arkansas, I think if Arkansas had one more possession, they probably would have won that game last week. So I think it's just the state of the SEC, David. I don't think there is an elite team, and that counts Georgia. I truly don't think, they're probably top 5. I don't want to totally discredit them, but they've not been overly impressive outside of the one game against Kentucky. So, yeah, you're right. But again, it's coaching, it's players stepping up, making plays, and Jaden Daniels is on fire, and that's why LSU is not 3-3 or something like right now, which they could be without him.
Mike, is this the first time in some time that, and I don't know, I'm putting words in your mouth here, that you aren't confident the SEC is going to win a national championship?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even. This is crazy to say, but it could be true. SEC may not even get a playoff team in there. If Georgia, with their schedule, I think they'll go undefeated. But if they somehow find a way to lose in the SEC championship game, I don't care that they won the last 2. Their resume is this year, and I don't think they will have the resume to get in. And if they now, let's see who they play. Is it Alabama, who's got 1 loss? Yeah, Alabama will make it. If it's LSU though with 2, depending on what happens with Florida State, if Florida State wins the ACC, obviously that'll help LSU's case. But I truly don't think it's that bizarre to sit here and say the SEC may not have a single college football playoff team, and I can't believe I'm even uttering those words.
Let's just play out a scenario where Bama makes it to the playoffs and they play Texas, okay? Is that the same Bama team that played Texas at the beginning of the year under that scenario? Or if they played right now? Right.
I think right now they are about the same. I truly do. I'm not buying Alabama. And again, I get it. They beat. I went on national television, David, and I guaranteed A&M would beat them by 2 touchdowns. I said so. I was a fool that day. I may still be a fool, but I don't think Alabama's that good. They bounce right back and struggle against Arkansas. Again, maybe they'll destroy Tennessee. I think that's highly possible, but I don't have faith in that offense to destroy any SEC team. They do have a great defense, and their special teams made some huge plays against A&M, won them the ball game. So, no, I think if Texas played Alabama again, same result, I think Texas would win and win easily.
Talking SEC, Mike, here, one last thing. What about Ole Miss? I know you've talked about the status or where the SEC is overall, but is Ole Miss, the Ole Miss that we saw last year, that they're really not as good as the record seemed to be early on in the season, or are they this year? Maybe they have figured it out.
Yeah, they're kind of the toughest team for me to peg, David. They've had a lot of guys injured, and early in the season, and specifically that Alabama game, it revealed itself. They could not run the ball, and if you can't run the ball, I know Kiffin gets this reputation as a quarterback whisperer and throw it all over the yard, but Ole Miss is built on the running game. And they could not run the ball against Alabama. They couldn't run the ball against Tulane, and they nearly lost that one too. Now they found that running game, which makes them dangerous. They're getting weapons back, but I'm not a believer in Ole Miss, and I think the odds makers are with me because they're less than a touchdown favorite at Auburn this weekend. Again, Auburn is, I think, one of the worst teams in the SEC. So Ole Miss has still got a lot to prove to me. They still got a trip to Georgia coming up. And I think that's going to eliminate them from any kind of dream season.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you, Mike. We'll do it again. All right, buddy?
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.